Thank you. Dr. Magele.
Thank you, Chairman, members of this Commission. I have to present to you a complex issue, complex in terms of budget technique, and therefore I need your full attention, and I try to get it right. Let me start with one basic fact. The reform of the direct payment scheme will, budget-wise, only apply as from 2015, which means the effects of the applications which are going to be made in 2014 will only become relevant for the budget in the year 2015. This means that the budget year 2014 will still be the budget year which will cover the claim year 2013, which we are talking about here in this context. What is the purpose of our proposal? We would like to ensure a certain stability of the support level for farmers between the 2012 and 2013 claim years. And 2013 claim year is, as I said, the budget year 2014, and enable a smooth transition from the current direct payment scheme to the future direct payment scheme as proposed under the MFF. What's the problem that we would like to address? Now, the 2012 claim year is the last year of application of modulation for member states. This is laid down in Regulation 73 of 2009. So modulation only goes up to the 2012 claim year. This means that from the 2013 claim year onwards, the direct payments level would no longer be affected by modulation, be it normal modulation, basic modulation, and progressive modulation. In this context, it's important to note that the amount corresponding to modulation in the claim year 2012, so the last modulation year, is moved or has been moved in the MFF proposal to the second pillar. So as from the reform, there would be no longer modulation, and what was the amount corresponding to modulation in the last year would go to the second pillar under the MFF. This means for the member state, if we didn't make a proposal, the payments for farmer for the claim year 2013, to be reimbursed in the budget 2014, would increase by the amount of modulation. And at the same time, we would, with basically 100% certainty, run into the application of financial discipline up to 10%, which is the basic modulation level for the claim year 2012. Now, what we are proposing to avoid this undesirable situation, we propose to make an adjustment to the direct payments for the 2013 claim year at the level of the 2012 modulation rate, which is the rate applicable in the last year where modulation is on the agenda. The modulation rate as it would be applicable in the member states. This basically means that we ensure kind of a stability over the claim year 2013 into the reform as it has been proposed under the MFF proposals. At the same time, we propose to do away for the 2014 budget year with a 300 million euro margin in the context of financial discipline. This is the margin that has to be maintained, respected, if I may say so, in the framework of the considerations which have to be applied in the context of financial discipline. This basically is what has been also proposed in the MFF and the CAP reform proposals. So basically, we would already bring in line the 2012 claim year or the 2014 budget year with the subsequent years under the new MFF proposal. Now, we also believe that there is no longer a need for the 300 million margin as it is currently in the direct payments regulation, because the MFF proposal provides for the so-called crisis reserve, which would cover particular market crisis situations. Important in all this is that we are proposing a transitional mechanism for basically one claim year, 2013. So there is a need for the urgent adoption of this regulation, which cannot wait until the same moment when the MFF and the CIP reform proposals are being adopted, because it already needs to be in place for the 2013 claim year. For us, the target date for adoption would be end of June 2012, which means basically before the summer break next year, so that all the necessary implementing measures can be taken to make sure that as from the 2013 claim year, this transitional scheme can be applied. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for what you have said, because the nuts and bolts of this reform are very, very important. But can you please produce some working examples, and you're going to have quite a lot, working examples for different member states, working examples for upland farmers or lowland farmers within those member states, working examples for people who are on historic or regional methods of being paid, also working examples for people who will cease trading during this transitional period, and for people who are coming in to trade. We are going to be besieged with questions from farming unions and farmers, and everyone will want to know, how is this going to affect me? And Mr. De Santos talked about Pillar 2, the end of modulation. These are words we're just getting used to, and it is crucial we know what is going to happen. So are you able to do this within the next couple of months? It will be very helpful if you could use bar charts or tower charts, whatever you like to call them, so farmers can see how is their income going to be affected. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, the situation is rather complex, rather confused. Does Dr. Magele want to come in again? Otherwise, I'll give the floor back to the rapporteur so that he can wind up.
Prego, Magele.
Vielen Dank, Herr Vorsitzender.
Thank you, Chair. At the start, I did indeed say that it's a very complex issue, and that's reflected in what the MEPs have been saying. So I think perhaps not a good idea if we just go into some of the details now and try to explain them. We are always available for bilateral, trilateral or multilateral discussions and information meetings. And I think we actually already have a meeting planned together with Mr. Rapporteurs and the Shadow Rapporteurs. We weren't able to fit that into this year, but certainly in 2012 we can catch up on that as soon as possible. And we can clarify many of the questions of transitional periods, etc. As regards voluntary modulation, all I can say is that this is one of the points which is not covered by the proposal. So voluntary modulation, as in used in the UK, will expire. Now, in order to give you some examples of how it affects hail farmers, farmers in different situations, and how it's going to affect them, well, in this measures, we're not talking about the situations of specific areas or of farmers, but it's a global question about how we're going to handle direct payments. So that in general, we're going to have a mechanism which is similar to modulation for the claim year 2013. We're bringing that in as a transitional period. And that's going to affect various farmers, as we don't have to decide the different categories of farmers. As regards the second pillar, well, in 2014, there will already be the new MFF in force. And the new MFF, with its angle on rural development, will be available. So therefore, it's not necessarily a good idea to have modulation or modulation-like funding being carried over in that transitional period. Now, it is going to be difficult in terms of the timing. We would like to suggest that we stick with the status quo.